Hi everybody. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you are from a sales training? Is anybody here from sales training background? Okay. So let me just do a quick introduction. I'm one of the co-founders of eNyota Learning, and we also have a brand called Ybarra, which is our learning management system. So quick introduction about me. We've been around for around 10 years now, and we've been creating custom learning solutions on the tech side as well as on the course development side for clients all around the world. So this session specifically, just to give you a quick snapshot of what are the kind of services that we offer. I'm not going to do a sales pitch about our services, but we do like learning design solutions wherein we are creating courses for clients, bespoke courses, mobile learning, etc. We also do a software development services for clients, and the kind of case study I'm presenting today is really about our custom software development solutions, and one specific one which we've developed for a client. So what the session is really about is the challenges that are there with specifically with training and what happens with on-the-job training. I mean, we know that on-the-job training is a very crucial component to the entire training mix, and we see that there are gaps in terms of how quite often what happens in on-the-job training is something that's very hard to measure. It's something that you hope that people are doing it effectively, and there's really no good way to really track it. So we've developed something specifically around sales training and how to impact behavior change on the job, and specifically using mobile apps. Now mobile apps, obviously, that's the device that everybody has with them at all points of time. Some industries have better penetration of where their employees have access to mobile devices versus others. So just let's talk about sales training specifically. This is ASTD research. They say that 48% of salespeople actually learn through trial and error kind of a mechanism. Now, why this is important? Because specifically in sales training, there is this huge emphasis on natural talent, being natural salespeople, etc. But that's really half true. Specifically around sales training, yes, there is an element of personal qualities that come into the equation and it impacts sales, but also a huge emphasis is on process training, a huge emphasis on getting people to follow process and the kind of behaviors that you expect from high performance salespeople, and that's the other aspect of it. So let's say a company is already invested in actually doing that training. So you've invested resources, whether it's classroom training, whether it's e-learning, that does not matter. You've actually done some aspects of that training already. And then quite often the approach is let's train them and then let them lose out there once in their job, on the job kind of a situation, in their job environment. They're just kind of, you hope that they're following through on what training they're supposed to do. They've been trained on something and you're hoping that they follow those processes that they have been trained in on the job. These are one of the gaps of formal sales training specifically. There's not enough follow through on what happens on the job. Quite often, the post-training situation is really about wishful thinking. You're hoping that your sales reps are actually implementing what they have learned, and you're hoping that the managers are actually coaching them towards the behaviors that that you really want to implement in their day-to-day lives. Quite often, managers also are really not equipped to do coaching. So they are managers because they've grown through the ranks, etc. And while they may have been good at their job in, say, for example, selling, but they're really not equipped to do a formal coaching exercise with their teams. And obviously, sometimes there's a lack of insight and control on what actually happens on the job. So we're trying to address that in multiple sort of ways. So quite often people say, formal learning with LMSs, there is a great amount of reporting that you can really generate from formal learning, whether it's e-learning or SCORM. You can run assessments and actually see what's happening. With work-based assignments, on-the-job training, it's sometimes a little bit of a black hole. It's left up to the it's left up to the discretion of the manager about how rigorous they want to be versus how loose they want to really keep it. So we've been working with this company called 615 Retail in Australia. They specialize around retail training specifically. We did some e-learning with them a few years ago, but they really came to us for our learning management system. At that point of time, we got a conversation going that while they do deliver e-learning to their customer base, what often they find is once those people go back to the job, it's a little difficult to measure what's really going on and whether that training is really percolating into behavioral changes that you want on the job. And if you think about a retail context, you're talking about stores with 1,000 employees, 5,000 employees, maybe even more. And all that training costs that you have really incurred is kind of maybe going down the drain because you're not able to follow through effectively. So if you look at it from a retail industry context, and I think it spans across all sales training specifically, 80-20 rule still applies. Your high performers will be the real stars, and that's like 20% of your organization. The bulk of your staffs are going to be are you going to be in the middle, your middle average performers, and maybe your low performers. So the trick is not really to focus entirely on the high performers, but how much of your middle performers can you, even if you can make a dent in 10% of your middle performers and move them to high performers, and some of your low performers out there. But the real focus should be on getting the people in the middle to raise their level even by just one notch. So 615 did a survey across 30 large retailers and in 3 regions and 400,000 staff. So these L&D professionals managed teams of around close to 400,000 staff overall. So what they found is how many of your store managers are actually implementing and reinforcing training programs in the job? And the answer was just 15%. So all that formal training that you've done, whether it's in classroom, whether it's e-learning, are your managers really following through on that? The answer across 400,000 staff, 15%. So managers are really not doing a good job in reinforcing what people have learned. But the good part is, you've got like 25% of your managers across these 400,000 staff, 25% of the managers actually high performers themselves. 60% of those managers that were surveyed, they would like to do better and more effective coaching, but they simply don't have the tools, they're not equipped, and they're not trained effectively to really do that. And that's really the challenge. Quite often with talent, specifically around the retail sector, you have, it's hard to find good managers externally. Probably your best bet would be to groom your internal teams to rise up to the occasion and really fill in the shoes of the managers of the future. Very important. Also with millennial workers, what they found is that it's very hard to engage them with traditional learning formats. Whether it's classroom or whatever it is, whatever you do, it is tough to engage them. And there is definitely a need for a more simpler coaching framework, which will allow your managers to coach their staff effectively, and where you can measure stuff. So the real challenge for 615 and what we came together and we started talking was, what if there was a way to really measure what happens on the job? And that's really the key. So what we've effectively done is we've actually created a bunch of apps, 2 apps specifically, one for the manager and one for the sales rep. And I'll show you a preview of what that app looks like. So the idea is, in the retail context, the 615 trains on a 6-step sales process. How to welcome your customers, how to understand their needs, how to advise and give suggestions, and how to close the deal, thank, and at the end, customer complaints. Now, all the sales rep needs to be taken through each step of the sales process. They've been trained on it, but now it's time to really reinforce it and make sure that the managers are coaching them to follow the behaviors that they really intend, they want them to follow in the store. So very important, let's not leave the manager out. What's important is, here we have an app for the manager as well, wherein we are giving them reinforcement on leadership skills, effective communication, what it means to create a high performance culture within their teams, and a competency framework, and obviously how to actually do coaching, because it's not some instinctive process. There is a way, there is some best practices around coaching and what you would like them to do, and that's also supported. So the idea is the managers complete their app, they go through the entire exercise, they complete their training, they are equipped to do the coaching after that. So the idea is after the manager is certified for actually doing the coaching, then all the reps within their team start this exercise. So they go through the app and this formal coaching exercise. I'll show you what that looks like. So very simply, this is the manager app on the left, and that's the rep app on the right. Sitting in the middle is a reporting and analytics system that we've built for them to kind of track and measure what's really going on with the coaching. So I'm going to take you through the flow of a typical sales rep. What are they really going to go through? So you give them a quick set of instructions on how to really use the app and go through this entire coaching exercise. There's a quick refresher on the skills that you want to. So for example, you're talking about how to welcome a customer, how to understand their needs, etc., how to do a close, how to ask for the sale, etc. So you coach them, give them a refresher on what they already know. They can refer to this on their app as many number of times as they want. You give them a little bit of a quiz where you want to test their knowledge on what they know already. These quizzes are not just just practice quizzes. They're actually tracked, so you can really see what they know. That's just a game-based quiz because it's a retail sector. You have a huge amount of millennial kind of audience. So we've used some really creative graphics out there, but you could make it as simple as you want as well. So you have your quiz. The scoring is done. You're actually tracking what people have scored on these on these quizzes, and actually it contributes to their competency framework, and I'll show you that in a minute. You have some role play videos. Here these videos are about capturing the best practice that you want people to follow on the job and putting that video on the app itself so they can refer to it as many number of times as you want. So that role play video is actually an ideal interaction between a customer and the rep. So you capture that, we put that in the app, and leaving nothing to chance, there's also a script that they can go through for how you would ideally want that interaction to happen. So the rep at his own time and convenience can go through that script as many number of times as he wants, and obviously reinforce and build his own confidence that he can do it to the process. And now here's the part. Initially, what we spoke about, the black hole on the job. Here, through the app, the rep is going to send a formal request for coaching, a one-on-one coaching session to his manager. And now we have got a formal mechanism going through the app, and it's not left up to the whims and fancies of the manager or the discretion of the manager whether he wants to do it or not. A quick point out here. Now what we see, suppose we talk about a typical store. You have like 10 reps within the store. How quickly does the manager respond to that coaching request? Is he going to sit on it for a week, or is he going to respond as soon as possible? Here is something that you can do. I'll drill down with the manager about how rigorous he has been in his coaching exercise. And it's important. For example, does he take like a month to get through a team of 5? Or does he just get through it as quickly? Obviously, you want to encourage behavior on the manager's side as well to get through his coaching exercise as quickly as possible, because that's what is going to really bring about the change in behavior that we are really looking for. So the actual coaching exercise is an offline process. At the moment, we have not captured that through the app, but there are plans how we can capture that through the app as well. So the coaching exercise is done. Here it's just a coaching with the manager. After this, what is expected is that we want them to do an actual role play with a customer. So you want the manager to accompany the sales rep to a real life customer who walks in and actually see how the rep actually handles that situation. And the manager is observing that behavior. Again, notification goes to a manager, for a formal notification goes to the manager for that sort of interaction where the rep is requested for a role play. The role play does happen, and here's where the manager now needs to actually put in a formal review through the app for that representative, and that's the most important part of it. Now here we've got in this we looked at a 6-stage sales process. Welcome, understand, advise, thank, etc. So each stage of the sales process. So each of those each stage of the sales process has like 3 parameters that you want to ask the manager to actually rate their rep. So it's not generic, it's not some I would say open-ended kind of thing. The specific behaviors we want the manager to rate the rep on. So quite simply, the manager is rating on 3 parameters per module that you have, and there are a total of 18 parameters which each of your reps are going to get rated on. And I'll talk to you about what happens with that rating as such. At the end of the exercise, when you're looking about your reps, when you're talking about your entire population of learners out there, maybe 1,000, 5,000 staff, etc., you might plan it over maybe a 3-month period or whatever. Your rep is getting notifications on what modules he's completed. He's earning badges along the way, and at the end of the exercise, he's getting a certificate. So in that way, the coaching exercise is complete. At the end of it, the rep can actually give feedback to the manager as well about how was the entire coaching exercise, and obviously contributes to what you can fix in the program overall. Now let's talk about, we've done this, we've got the manager's app, the manager's completed his training, the reps all have completed their training one by one. And what are you doing at the end of it? You're actually able to put that data together and analyze what's going on. So if you think about a typical retail structure, you have your stores, you have an area manager who might be overseeing a bunch of stores, you may have a territory manager who may be overseeing a set of areas, etc. And you have an access to actually all that data at every level. So a regional manager could see the competency level of all the people within his region. A area manager could see all the competency level of all his teams within that city. So suppose you have 10 stores within the city or 4 stores within the city, you could actually drill down and see what is their competency level. So here's where we are doing tracking. So you can actually see how many people have actually completed this coaching exercise. You can drill down, you can send reminders to people who have not done the formal coaching exercise. You can see module level scores out here, how people have been scored, how they have scored on the quiz that we did. So that quiz is just not a knowledge check or a practice quiz. It contributes to their assessment overall. Then you have the manager rating, how managers have rated everybody within their teams. And you also have a combined score of the quiz as well as the manager rating to look at. How does that contribute? And all of this contributes to actually a competency level that 615 follows, wherein how many of your team members are beginners, how many of them are learners, how many of them are professionals, and obviously high performers and experts. Now, by looking at all their competency levels, you can kind of see where we're going with this. We're trying to correlate this competency level to what is actually happening with the sales within those stores. So whether it's in the retail context, whether you talk about any sort of other large sales team out there, you are able to drill down to what are their competency levels and then link it to what their actual performance on the job is. So the idea is, if you see here, you're able to see what is the competency level across the organization. You're able to see what we call a team strength ratio. The higher the team strength, the better the chances that you will be able to have a high performing sales culture within your store, etc. And you can actually do a comparison across anything. You can do a comparison across regions. You can do a comparison across cities, whatever it is. So you can set up your own hierarchy. So an area manager can see the competency level within the territory or region that he handles. So here's really where we are doing a further drill down on how we are linking the competency levels to what we are expecting from a sales perspective. Here, with this filter on the reporting side, you can choose whichever area, geography, or hierarchy you want, and you can compare data. So you can see within, say for example, a city, which is the store with the highest sales, and consider that as benchmark data and look at the competency level of the other stores that are in that area, and then you can compare it obviously to the dollar values that each of these stores bring, And here you've got linkages between competency levels and what is expected from a business point of view, from a sales. So in case you see falling sales within particular stores, you can drill down back to what are the competency levels of your team, because if your competency levels are low and you have a large set of people who are beginners and learners, you're going to have a challenge with your sales for sure. So the idea is, with this entire mechanism of having the manager app and the reporting app, or the app for the rep, you're able to bring that rigor and thereby embed the kind of skills that you want on the job. Rather than just leave it up to the manager, you have a formal mechanism right now. You can go back to your managers and have a conversation. Why aren't you coaching your teams quickly enough? What is the challenge out there? What is the team mix that you have? What are you doing to raise the levels of competency within your teams? And that's really what this entire app is about. So looking at, these are various parameters across both the color schemes that are out there. What really goes into building a high performance sales team? Their knowledge, the skills, the desire, the traits and behaviors of the salespeople. And through the app, we are trying to impact various things. One thing that we are trying to impact is obviously embedding the sales process in the minds of the reps and the managers. That's for sure. Improving their selling skills, because rather than rely on instinct and just their default behaviors in the store, they've been trained on a specific sales behavior, and are they really following that to the T? That's important. Obviously, communication skills, listening skills through the app. You're providing them the resources and training that they need. Now, one thing that we spoke about earlier is, you have managers, sometimes they know what to do, but they don't have the framework to give them the confidence that they can actually execute that entire coaching mechanism. So you're focusing on individual motivation of the managers to get that done. You're focusing on the motivation of the reps as well. There are rewards associated with it, recognition, certification at the end of it. And we cannot place a larger emphasis on practice and preparation. Previously, even though the training was done, there was really no way for the manager to do a rating of what happens on the job. You can do as much classroom training as you want, but are they following the processes on the job? That's the key. And by focusing on that app and making sure that we use the app as a framework to make sure that the training happens as desired, that's really about the preparation and practice. And at the end of it, if you really look at it, it's also a change management exercise, because quite often after training happens, what you see is people go back to their jobs and they get back to their default behaviors, whatever they're used to. I mean, they will try and operate in an instinctive sort of way because it's easier. But to actually put that, what they have learned, into practice, it requires that element of coaching. And unless that coaching in some way or other is measured and tracked and mapped to competency levels, it can be wishful thinking to a large part. So the idea out here is to bring that entire change management exercise across the organization by giving them a mechanism and a framework to track what's happening from a coaching point of view. So this is version 1 of what we are doing with the app and the reporting mechanism. There are a whole bunch of other features that we are adding. Now the idea is that, though I've kind of spoken very largely on the retail context, that's just because we worked with 615 Retail and they're focused on the retail sector. But the application of this entire coaching mechanism and that framework that we spoke about, that applies across any kind of a situation. The parameters may be different, the app may be different, you may want to track different sort of behaviors, but using that app, across any sales organization, whether it's retail, insurance, pharma, or IT, how your sales rep behave, and basically giving a structure and framework to your managers to actually do the coaching and measure what's happening to the competency levels of your teams. So that's really where, well, that's it from my side. We are in booth Q3. So if you actually want to see the app, I know I've kind of just shown screenshots because I was not sure whether I really want to, kind of demonstrate it over here, but I have the app with me. I have the reporting system, so you can actually see how the drill down works. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them right now, or potentially you could see us at booth Q3, and I would be happy to walk you through what that app looks like and what the reporting system as well looks like. Thank you very much for your time.